I would book bands from the age of 14 to about 21. Half the time, like, they're like, so where's the promoter? And I'm like, I'm him. And they're like, you're a 14-year-old kid. And I'm like, well, here's your check. So it's kind of crazy. You know, I remember, you know, the first rock singer that I heard that was like, wow, they're like me, was Amy Lee. You know, I think I was like 13, right? You know, I heard her on the radio, right? And because I was listening to the radio at the time, but she had this like classical voice, very like operatic, you know, voice to her. And for me, I was in musical theater, you know, I was in choir, I was doing all of that, right? And so for me, I was like, whoa, like she's so theatrical. She's, you know, it was like one of these moments of being like, is this my first crush? But is this also like my living legend of vocalists that I like love, you know? And it's crazy because last year when we played Aftershock, I got to meet her and I got to tell her, and I was like, I'm sorry, I'm being like a fanboy. I started like crying. It was so emotional, so beautiful. But it was so funny because she was like, I just did an interview and they and how much you look up to us and stuff. She was like, I don't hear that often. She was like, it's so cool to hear that from you guys. So it was a big special moment last year hearing that from her. When I first started singing, I was in elementary school. So I have kind of like dyslexia. I've got some learning disabilities. I have a little bit of everything, if you want to add to it, especially for school, right? I just learn differently. And in elementary school, especially back when it wasn't fully developed as what it is now, right? I kept having these issues of being like, I don't belong here. I don't belong in school. I don't know what to do. And then my choir teacher pulled my mom aside at a parent-teacher conference and was like, your son can sing. Like, you should give him voice lessons. Go give him voice lessons. And it was something that I loved. I finally found the one thing at school that made me feel comfortable and made me want to keep going to school. Because for me, I never wanted to be there. I was tired of getting made fun of. I was basically 6 feet tall in elementary school. So, like, of course, all the bullies picked on me, you know, and I'm unique and flamboyant and weird, you know, or whatever. People call me zesty, you know, or whatever. And it's like, it's one of these things. It's like, for me, I'm just me, you know. And in elementary school, I knew that I was meant to sing, you know, and I just dove in. Growing up, especially like in middle school, I was like 90% of the time the lead in whatever it is, from Guys and Dolls to, you know, all the classics, right? And then in high school, I went to a special high school for 2 years that is like musical theater. It's like a magnet program, right? So it was, I was the only freshman casted in our musical, which is like a big deal. They like charge tickets. It's like a big deal. And I was Officer Krupke in West Side Story. Officer Krupke, Krupp you. So think about a freshman. That's how big I was. I was literally Officer Krupke, and it was so much fun, you know. But after that, that's kind of when I fell in love with rock music, punk rock. You know, that's when I was like, no. I really found my calling being up on that stage, singing my songs, singing my emotions, you know, being me. You know, I'm very lucky where my family has always supported me. So I got to practice anywhere basically I wanted to. You know, and I had my grandparents, so I lived with my grandparents and my mom, you know, and so it's basically like having 3 parents, which was very hard at sometimes because, you know, certain ones would say one thing or the other, you know, so it was super funny, but they were so supportive. So I was always singing, especially in the car. I think the car is like my big spot, you know. I remember growing up, you know, and my mom playing music a lot in her car, especially like 80s, especially like Blondie. That kind of stuff, Billy Idol, Queen, that kind of stuff, you know, and that's what I grew up on, and I started singing that stuff. And then for me, when I found my music, right, so like My Kim, Evanescence, you know, The Used, you know, whatever it was, for me, that's when I dove in harder, right? That's when I was like, wait a second. They're singing about me. Like that I'm them, you know? So I was in some questionable local bands growing up, right? Because I grew up in the age of MySpace, of electronic grindcore. Okay, so I was in an electronic grindcore band once. Okay, I was in a full-on grindcore band, right? I was in a like super scenecore band. I mean, you name it, I was in it, right? And then I remember like really my first band. So it was basically my senior year of high school. It was called Make Believe Me, right? And we were the biggest local band in the northern Atlanta area, right? So we could go and play our local venue and stuff like that. And now that's part of my story too, is I worked at a local club. It was an all-ages club, 200-cap venue. I would book bands from the age of 14, when I was 14 to about 21. And half the time, like, I mean, I remember Cirque Survive showing up when I was literally like 14 years old. They're like, so where's the promoter? And I'm like, I'm them, and they're like, you're a 14-year-old kid, and I'm like, well, here's your check, you know, and it's sick though, because that's how I did this, that's how I got in. But my mom was still so supportive. She took our first promo pictures. I've posted this on my Facebook and Instagram, where it's me and my best friend at the time. We started this band, and it was just a joke, right? But it was an expression of we needed to do something. I wasn't really a good player. I could sing, but none of us knew a drummer or whatever. So we were like, let's put the drums on an iPod, you know, and he'll play guitar and sing, and I'll just sing, you know, and it was stupid. But my mom was still so supportive. She literally took our first promo picture. We used this thing called, I think it was like Magic's Music Maker or something. It was some Windows. I got it for like $20 at Walmart, you know, and it had like beats that you could like create and move around and stuff. And then I was like, okay, so I can make beats. Okay, this is kind of cool, right? And because I knew theory from being a singer, you know, I knew a little bit of piano, so I knew enough. So I was like, okay, that's the same key, so we're good, you know. But, you know, recording ourselves was cool, you know, but that's also how I stayed afloat. After that, I started recording local bands. I got gear and I built a studio into my house, you know. My grandfather, again, so supportive, helped me for like 3 weeks straight. We built this studio up, and we still use it as a band. Like, we still record demos, and we still do a lot with it. So it's crazy. Oh, man. So first tour was about 10 years ago. It was cool because we had an older band take us under their wing, right? And they really helped us a lot at the beginning, you know. Things changed over time, and you know, we kind of had a falling out with them. But the issue is that, like, that first tour, I mean, that tour kicked our ass, you know. And it was one of those things of being like, oh, wow, we're playing in front of like 300 people every night, you know, which is like normally like we could maybe do that in our hometown. But besides that, that's it, you know. And for us, it was like, oh, my God, another show. Did my voice hold up? I think it was fine. You know, here's the deal is I think the years and years of the classical training, I think I've maybe lost my voice twice out of 10 years. So I'll take it, you know. So when I get sick on tour, I think I try so hard to power through it, especially when we were doing, you know, supporting these bigger bands or stuff. We can't miss a show. And there's no show without one of us, you know. And we've done it before, right? So we've done it where we've had no guitarist, and it was 3 of us. It was literally drums, bass, vocals. Thankfully, with modern recording, we were able to record the guitars and play it back. But even that, like, I don't know what we would do. I have done shows where I've sat down literally in a chair and had to perform before. I just try as hard as I can to sing it. You know, I remember there was this one show that I did lose my voice, and I just had the crowd sing it, you know, and we were lucky that the front row all knew our songs, so we were fine. So pre-show ritual stuff, for me, I do a lot of warm-ups, right? I definitely warm it up. I definitely, you know, make sure I'm drinking a lot of water. You know, do some stretches because I do a lot of high kicks up on stage, so I'm a big mover. You know, we do, right before we go up on stage, we have like this like little like where we do like swords up. I never call it out. I'm just holding it because my mic's always live, so it's like swords up, arm of the hammer, spirit of the eagle, and then it's like type shit. And then we say whoop, whoop. So because every single tour, the past like 5 tours, we add something to it. And this beginning of this tour, we did a show with Twisted, who they all, of course, they whoop whoop. So we were like, all right, we're gonna add in the whoop whoop. So after shows, it's very hard for me to warm down because I'm one of those artists that I instantly go to the merch table. I instantly meet everybody. Literally, even today here at Sonic Temple, I jumped off, ran across the barricade, and I met people for about 30 minutes. And, you know, for me, I could just keep going. I think I feed off of the energy from everyone. And, you know, I'm very lucky so far that my voice hasn't given out. I might sound a little raspy here and there, but you know, at the end of the day, as long as I can sing a note, I'll be okay. So the one thing a singer should never do before walking on stage, smoke a cigarette, you know? Unless, unless that's your thing, you know. I don't, there's no way. The idea of even being around people that smoke sometimes, they'll hit me right in. I'm like, you know, it just chokes me up, you know. Or drink cold water. Cold water instantly shrinks your like vocal cords. It just shrinks it up. So warm water or room temperature water. So